Very special. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff DeForrest. Happy to be here on behalf of many different factions. Bet Online, of course, being one of them. And we know this about the people at Bet Online. They are the world's most trusted betting site. But this is a very special occasion for us because I've known gamblers, and it gets to the point sometimes where you actually have to consider in an effort to get out of a long losing streak and maybe some debt that you can't handle, and you're worried about back in the day, maybe a little physical punishment coming your way as you fail to make payments, and it becomes very viable and very much under consideration to fake your own death. I've been in that spot. And so we had some concerns about Troy West. We know that he's been doing well, but we haven't seen him for a while. And so it's nice here that he was able to show up. And we missed you last week, Troy. How are you? How the fuck are you? Because people, there were growing concerns, including the lovely Leslie from No Filter, what was asking me, is Troy okay? Where the hell is this guy? We need him.
Well,
So we're happy to see Troy West from the West Coast there, way out in Seattle. How are you, my friend?
good to be back. Yeah, 2 weeks ago we hit. Once every 20 years, Defo out here in Seattle, you get a natural disaster, and we finally we hit that 20th year. So we had a natural disaster out here in Seattle, and then the Thanksgiving week got the best of me. But we are back. We've got some winning picks for you. We're still rocking and rolling at Troy wins, and it's great to be back.
So much happening right now in the world of sport that you can
There is.
possibly venture wagers on. If you are betting, let me get this in here, Troy, because Bet Online continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in game live betting, Bet Online provides you with all the action and the ability to bet on the games and watch the games as they're in action themselves. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, a lot of big boxing matches on tap, head to Bet Online today and don't forget to use the promo code that is BELIEVE, as in BLEAV, all caps, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, the game starts here. I tell you what started here, Troy West, and I'm sure you've been following this because you're a huge college football advocate and fan, and of course, have invested many thousands of dollars in the college football season, made recommendations here on the show that turned out to be very fortunate for the people that are following Bury Your Bookie. But let the crying, let the fetching, let the moaning, let the bitching begin. The University of Miami and the ACC absolutely distraught over the idea that it has happened again. And we talk about sabermetrics a lot in trying to quantify and qualify certain wagers and activity. But I think this gets down to, and I know he's not coaching there anymore, but this is Saban metrics, where the University of Alabama, in spite of getting crushed like a grape by an unranked Oklahoma team in their final regular season game, somehow leapfrogs the University of Miami, a two-loss team. That last loss, very upsetting and maybe indicative of where they should have been throughout the season because they had no defense to speak of, and they were being challenged by teams of much lesser potency offensively than Syracuse, who slipped into the top 25 at number 22 after their victory over the Canes. But how do you feel about this? Is some of this complaining justified? The ACC is going to get one team in the college football playoff, while the almighty SEC is going to get four in all likelihood. Do you feel like, and last year, I mean, there was a legitimate case. There's no other way to put it. But that Florida State got fucked by every criteria that you could measure qualifying, and this was in a 4-team playoff format. They had won all of their games, and I know the style points were dismantled when Jordan Travis went down. Their second-string quarterback wasn't available to them. They go out and win a conference championship game in the ACC against a decent Louisville team with a third-string quarterback, and they crushed them in the process, and still are over taken in the final rankings by a one-loss Alabama team because Nick was crying. What do you think? Was this a fair circumstance that came about yesterday when the College Football Playoff Committee said, oh, by the way, Miami, no longer number 6, number 12, and you're going to be leapfrogged by whoever wins the Big 12 championship. And so for all intents and purposes, and yesterday on the show, we were suggesting that maybe there was a handicapper that was onto something. Take 8-1 that the Hurricanes would make it in, and within 24 hours, you were already separated from your money on that one. But what was your thought on the whole thing? How did you see this whole scenario?
Yeah, I didn't like it at all, and I think college football really has got to go back to the drawing board again because as you mentioned, they've taken the SEC and they've said this is obviously an elite conference, and I don't think anybody would argue that. But you do have all of these Power Five conferences, and to say that the ACC is that much worse than the SEC is just unfair. I mean, at what point do you take Miami's record and Alabama's record? Okay, Miami's got the better record, and I get it. Yeah, Alabama played the tougher schedule. If Miami hypothetically played in the SEC, they probably would have dropped 3 games. But they didn't play in the SEC. They played in the ACC. They played a fairly tough schedule. They put teams like Florida on the schedule, and Florida wasn't very good this year, but they still thumped them. They put, the ACC is supposed to be one of the better conferences. It wasn't the best conference this year, understandably, but to take a 2 loss team and throw them out and put the 3 loss team in, I just have never understood it. Yes, on a neutral field, Alabama's probably favored by 5 to 7 points against Miami. I get it. I get Alabama again, played the tougher schedule. They've got the better wins, all of that, yada, yada. But at what point does the record not matter? And it's a tricky one, Defo. I go back, and this was a great debate last night. We debated this for hours, but it's a tricky one because you look at a team like Boise State, and let's say hypothetically Boise State was undefeated and lost in their conference championship game. Do they get in with 1 loss? No, but to me the ACC and the SEC, I don't know. I guess the big question is how big are the differences with these conferences. The SEC's got some cupcakes in that conference as well too. So to me, it was a debacle because I do think Miami still had a good resume. One less loss, like you said, Alabama, they've got the 3 losses, one to Vanderbilt, one to Oklahoma. Both those teams were 6 loss teams. One of them was an ugly game, 23-3. Does that weigh into the equation? I don't know what goes in the equation, but I would think the 2 loss team gets in over the 3.
Certainly was more embarrassing for Alabama to lose to Oklahoma in the fashion that they did than Miami losing on the road to Syracuse, which got into the top 25 at number 22 after that victory, but ended up 9-3. Had some impressive performances. They laid that big fat Rodan-sized egg when they played Pittsburgh, when Cord threw the 2 pick-sixes in the ball game in the first quarter, and 3 overall, I guess. What was the total? So that was a disaster. And if that was the only game you saw, you would have thought that Miami should have wiped the floor with Syracuse. But they did distinguish themselves during the course of the rest of their schedule. How many points do you and your handicapping team ascribe to the Cristobal factor? We were saying that Mario Cristobal being on the sidelines for any team is somehow to a better should be worth about 7 points. Maybe it's not that fat, but do you take that into consideration? Because he was responsible, Mario Cristobal, the head coach at the University of Miami, for one of what I thought were the 2 glaring bozoic moves that were made by head coaches over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. The other one, of course, being the obvious one, Matt Eberfluss. His quarterback gets sacked. There's 32 seconds left to go in the ball game, and he has a timeout in his pocket. He's standing by the official. What
Yeah,
the
it was
fuck are they
unbelievable.
talking about? All this guy has to do is make any kind of a semblance of a gesture, and he still has 32 seconds to go and a chance to maybe execute 3 or 4 more plays. And yet he goes ahead instead and lets the clock run out and then tries to justify it after the ball game. His contract was in the shredder before the sideline reporter got to him for the explanation in the post game interview. And of course, he got fired. Cristobal going for that field goal, though, at the end. I don't know if you caught the end of the Syracuse game where Miami has the ball at the 10-yard line. They've got a 4th and 10. And it reminded me of the divide that was created with Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers many years ago in a playoff game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when LaFleur has this gunslinger who is still maybe not in his prime, but very effective in these spots. And instead of going for a touchdown that would have won the ball game for him, he kicks a field goal and then tries to recover an onside kick. I don't think Rodgers ever got over it. LaFleur has distinguished himself as being a pretty good coach with the team he's got this year, but that was a tragic move. Cristobal goes for the field goal and cuts the lead to 4, but he still needs a touchdown to win the game. Never gets the ball back, And that was one of those coaching atrocities. I thought that was rivaling the stupidity and the mindlessness of Matt Eberflus forsaking a timeout and letting the clock run down to 9 seconds, where he only has a chance to run one play.
Yeah, especially when it's a shootout like that game was. I mean, I think a lot of coaches they give their credit to their defense, right? And I get that. It's like, oh, I don't want to make my defense think I don't trust them. But that game was clearly a shootout, and they just weren't going to stop them. I watched the whole game. Right when they kicked the field goal, I said, this game's over. They're not getting the ball back. I mean, Kyle McCord and Syracuse were at home. They were playing so good in the dome. Like you said, yeah. I mean. Crystal Ball's worth 5 to 7 points. There's no
You put him
doubt. I
out
mean,
right.
it's shocking. The guy's an incredible recruiter. He was obviously at Alabama for a while, came out here in Oregon and did a phenomenal job at Oregon recruiting, but just not an in-game coach. It's almost like he needs to go up in the press box without a headset and just be the general manager. I think he'd be doing a lot of people a lot of favors if he did that. So, yeah, that was a debacle. Like you said, when it's a shootout like that, you've got to find a way to get in the end zone.
It's the one thing you need to be good at if you're a head coach is time, clock management, game management, situational decisions that need to be made, and constantly you see guys making just pathetic moves,
Yep.
including we were talking about it's what Dillingham, the guy at Arizona State. We were talking about that, I believe, the last time you were on a show where the guy has the ball. All he has to do is punch it into the end zone there, and the ball game's over. You can end it right there with one play. And instead, he does this fancy schmancy stuff with his quarterback dancing backwards and nearly loses the game and a chance to compete for the Big 12 championship outright by giving the opposition a chance to throw a Hail Mary at the end of the ball game, which was completed and nearly cost him the game. And at that point, that level of stupidity, you would think, would have cost him his job. All right, a lot of interesting stuff happening over the weekend, and of course, you guys have been faring very well. I saw somebody post something up on social media thanking you and your team there at Troy Winds for the very favorable results that they've been achieving. Where are you at with the pro game right now? Because we we didn't complete our three-team parlay over the weekend on Thanksgiving Day. I guess that Bears game that we mentioned that surprised a lot of people. They were figuring that the Lions would just literally roar and roll right over the Chicago Bears. Bears were competitive in that game, as they have been in a couple of their very tough losses, losing to the Commanders on a Hail Mary. Then also losing to the Kansas City Chiefs, right, with a blocked field goal, where they had a chance to win that game and couldn't come through. But yeah, I mean, what are you feeling about the pros right now? It appears there two teams have kind of separated themselves from the pack, and I'm not sure what to make of the Chiefs, but it does look like Philadelphia and Detroit out of the NFC are the two elite teams. Are you feeling the same way about that, or do you see somebody else emerging as a possible champion?
You know what? I'm not going to count Green Bay out quite yet. This is a team that's been up and down a little bit throughout the year. Detroit, they just did not look that good against the Bears on Thanksgiving, and they're getting more and more banged up now. They lose their middle linebacker now. Obviously, we know about Aiden Hutchinson being out. The injury bug's really starting to get them, and I'm curious when it catches up to them. Hopefully not. I mean, obviously they're going to have some time here to get healthy and but they've got to play every game to clinch that number one seed because they've got the Green Bay Packers and the Eagles right behind them. So those are I think it's a three-team race in the NFC with those three. The AFC, I still think it's wide open in the AFC. I'm not ruling out Pittsburgh. Boy, the way Russell Wilson's playing has been absolutely phenomenal. Hard to rule out the Ravens. Definitely not ruling out the Bills. And like you said, Kansas City's still a good football team. The Chargers are still a good football team. The AFC is wide open. But the NFC, I do think it's a three-team race with the Lions, Eagles, and the Packers.
I needed a dilaudid drip after watching the last NFL game of the week there. Unfortunately, I was stuck with the Browns getting 6 points.
Oh,
And wow, I mean, Jameis Winston, that's always something to consider. We were talking about the game against the Broncos, and you thought, well, the Jameis factor, two parts of the three-part equation are very negative. But if you had said to anybody This guy's going to throw for nearly 500 yards and 4 touchdown passes, and you're getting 6 points on top of that against the Denver Bronco team that what was not in the Charles Dickens category of great expectations before the season. Certainly have eclipsed anything that any handicappers or experts might have anticipated from them now at 8-5. But if you would thought that the Browns were going to be within 6 points, the Jameis factor, the negative part of it was what reared its ugly head. And how many times have you been in a spot where the only thing that can save you from losing to the point spread with whatever side you're backing is a late game pick six? And you're in the sports book there in the Washington area, and you're the one asshole that's watching the game and screaming, pick six on every play. And sure enough, he throws one. And then on top of that, to just make it even more insulting and more necessary to just expedite that a lot of drip, they get a chance to cover again late in the ball game, and he throws another interception after it looked like all was hopelessly lost. You get another chance at validation, and he throws the ball away at the 3 yard line. But yeah, the Jameis factor certainly was disheartening in that one, as he had a monster game, just like that season he had where he threw for 5,000 yards and still had 30 plus picks on the year.
I got a stat for you, Defo. I know you're a stat guy. I heard this yesterday on the radio. Uh, Jameis Winston in that game, if you include the 2 interceptions, threw for 712 yards in that game and broke the NFL record. So if
Yeah.
you include, because those run backs were phenomenal. And I kid you not, I will say we had the Denver Broncos, and I was texting. It wasn't even halftime yet. We were midway through the second quarter, and you could just tell it was going to be a shootout. And I texted a couple of our higher end customers and said, we just need Winston to be Winston. Just be patient. He will come down to earth. I didn't think it would be like that, but it did come
Um,
true
yeah.
uh, yet again. And I think he just, at some point, the guy is actually, the guy's a phenomenal quarterback, and he looked really good in that game. I mean, Denver had a top three defense going into that game. And, for him to throw for 400 plus yards and make Jerry Judy look like Terrell Owens. And I mean, it was unbelievable. I just think this guy, every once in a while, he just almost like he blacks out. Like you said, down there at the 3 yard line, opportunity to cut it to two. I mean, where are you going with the ball? I mean, just throw it out of bounds. I mean, my God, you've been in the league for so long. If it's not, I think it was first down too when he did that. Throw the freaking ball away. I get it if it's fourth down, you say, whatever, it shit happens. But the fact it was first down with 50 seconds left in the game is just crazy to me. Absolutely crazy.
Insane. Run the ball in and help us poor suckers that ended up with the Browns getting
Yeah.
6 points. I mean, give us a break. Shouldn't that be part of the equation where they're sending in the plays to that little speaker they have in the helmet, and the guy goes, and by the way, we're only getting 6 here.
Yeah.
So, just to add a little,
Yep.
a warning, a cautionary note that you don't want to disappoint the bettors in that fashion. But yeah, that was a rough one. The pick six going against, and then they get the ball back and a chance to cover the spread again, and with a meaningless late game touchdown. They're not
Yeah.
going to get the onside kick. They're not going to win the game, but you have a chance at salvation. And then bingo. Next thing you know,
Yep.
you're done, and your money goes up in smoke straight to the bookmakers. All right, let's look at some stuff. You have championship games on tap here, conference championship games. We talked about the implications for the college football playoff. I don't know where you stand on. I was just doing a show with some other guys, and they went with the chalk all the way. They think Oregon is just going to prevail and end up winning the championship. I don't know how you feel about that. I'm thinking about, and maybe this is insane, but because I've hated Notre Dame. I thought I was in the theater. You talk about screaming and making a fool of yourself. When I first saw Rudy in the movie theater, I hate Notre Dame so much, or did at the time, that I'm yelling and screaming. I got thrown out because I was screaming that Rudy was offsides. And he was. If you go back and you look at the replay, he's offsides on that play. And no flag thrown because of the Notre Dame bias. But I'm actually taking them into some consideration. I believe, are they as high as 14-1 to win the national championship? Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. Would you consider that they're in there with a shot, that they're blowing people out ever since that Northern Illinois loss early in the season, which was a disgrace? But nonetheless, they've acquitted themselves very well since then.
Yeah, I love what I see from them. They're playing great on both sides of the ball. I knew when they got Riley Leonard, this was going to be a really good football team. That guy's a very good, underrated college quarterback. Very smart kid, obviously coming from Duke, and the guy can run too. He's mobile. So no, I don't hate that at all. I mean, I I looked at this year, and this is about as wide open as a field as I've ever seen. I mean, yes, you've got the powerhouses in there. You've got the Oregons, you've got Texas, you've got Georgia. Sadly, we've got Alabama. But Notre Dame's right in on all of those, right? I mean, I think if Notre Dame were to go on a neutral field with, say, Oregon or Ohio State, they're probably a 4 to 5 point underdog. But we see those win all the time. So I don't dislike that at all.
All right, all right. So you're saying I'm not insane to take this into consideration. I just had a thought cross my mind because I was reading a handicapper yesterday that made a very eloquent case for the in the Knicks game last night, talking about how Orlando was rolling, and they'd been 12-1, I guess, since they floundered right after the Banchero injury. I think they lost like 5 of their 6 games after that. But then since, I mean, have figured something out. They're dynamite at defending the threes. They're very tough inside the paint also, and they've been relying on their defense to accomplish this 12 out of 13 streak. And he made an eloquent case for the fact that this was an NBA Cup game, and so they'd be particularly inspired to keep it close against the Knicks. They end up getting blown out by like 15 points. So all of his theories turned out to be bullshit. But do you attach in your handicapping? I mean, I think the NBA Cup is probably the worst marketing idea since New Coke was introduced to the public. When the old Coke was doing just fine, and they marketing strategy turned out to be. I would imagine they fired their ad agency immediately after the results were established. But do you attach any importance to these NBA Cup games as being significant in terms of creating a little more incentive for the players, or do you routinely and summarily just throw them out as being a bunch of cockamamie bullshit created by Adam Silver to try and make a meaningless regular season or a meaningless portion of it seem to stand out a little more?
No, yeah, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And I got a story for you. The Celtics were, I think they were playing the Heat the other night. I got to double check
Yeah,
this. They were playing the Heat the other night, and I had, my brother-in-law sends me this message, and he goes, "Holy crap! The Celtics were -10, and they were down by 8 with I think 6 seconds left, and Sam Hauser throws up a fadeaway three at the buzzer and makes it, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this game was fixed. There's no way. I mean, there's just no way that the guy would have shot the three and did that. And then he goes, well, and then we went back and did a little bit of homework, and they have the whole point differential and how many points you can score and all this stuff. So
yeah.
every basket mattered. So that's why he went and shot it. So I was like, oh, what a debacle. I think it is cool. Some of these bench players are playing for money, but put them in their own little tournament and let them play for money at the end of the year or something, because most of these guys don't need the money. They've done a horrible job marketing what it really is, what the standings are, how the round robins work. I mean, I can't even keep up with it. So I think it's been a debacle.
Yeah, I mean, it was right up there with that call from V. Stiviano that she taped with Donald Sterling in terms of damaging the credibility of the NBA, where they finally realized, oh, geez, everybody knows this guy is a racist bastard now, even though he's been in the league for 30 years and was the same guy. So I don't know. I understand that they were trying to do something to spark up interest in the early portion of the regular season, but if anything, it's just made it more confusing. And I can't imagine as a handicapping strategy, which this particular handicapper was alluding to, that this game somehow is of more significance to the Orlando Magic because it was an NBA Cup game, which they spit in your face with that one, as they had one of their worst efforts in the last month or so since the Banchero injury. All right, let's get to some stuff, Troy. I don't know where you want to start out, but a lot of college football, a lot of pro football on tap. You got basketball, college, pro, and NHL action as well. Let's dive right into it.
Yeah, we'll go back to my trifecta. I'll give you 3 games again. We're going to start Thursday night. I'm going to grab the Green Bay Packers getting 3. I just think they're due. The Lions are due to lose. I like the Packers in this game. They're playing better football. They will be the healthier team going into Thursday night. Lions are really banged up right now. Lions just, like I said, did not look good, especially in that second half against the Bears. Give me the Packers in a close game. I think the Packers win the game outright. 27-24. Give me Jordan Love and the Packers on Thursday night. Friday, I am going to the Mountain West Championship. Give me UNLV +4. That's an interesting game. I get it. Boise State's hot, hot, hot. I don't understand. This is a team that's very one dimensional. UNLV will have a game plan for them. I'll grab 4 points in the championship. I think it's a close one. I think Boise probably wins 31-28. I'll take UNLV plus the 4 in that one. And then on Monday Night Football, I'm telling you guys, we have been spot on with this team every single game. Give me the Cincinnati Bengals -5. Monday Night Football. They're playing a Dallas Cowboy team. People are all over the Cowboys. They're on their high horse because they beat the New York Giants and Drew Lock on Thursday. Mike McCarthy's got his job back. He's got the contract coming. No, not so fast, my friends. Give me the Bengals -5. Bengals, the one thing that scares me a little bit, this Bengals team is likely out of the playoff race at this point, but Joe Burrow's still playing phenomenal football. Their defense has been suspect, but they'll do enough to maintain Cooper Rush. Give me the Bengals in a big way on Monday Night Football. 31-17. I like the Bengals on Monday night.
Man, Dallas not overwhelmingly impressive in beating the Giants, and of course they won the previous week as well. But yeah, I don't know that they've solved all of their problems.
No.
Certainly, and they have some very well. They always have hard decisions to make at the end of the season, but it doesn't look like they're going anywhere. And McCarthy is acting like he just won the Super Bowl the last couple of weeks. As,
Yes, he is.
Dallas Cowboys have eked out a couple of victories. Bengals put a lot of points on the board. They've been playing in some tough luck this year. Obviously, have their flaws defensively, but Joe Burrow has distinguished himself as, again, one of the top quarterbacks and a guy you genuinely have to fear. So I like your selections here, Troy West. I always do because we can count on you either being 3-0 or 2-1. That's been the MO throughout the entire season, and that's been terrific. And I always love it. Usually, a handicapper has to have a separate email file for the hate mail that you're going to receive
Yeah.
when you give out any kind of. You could win 20 games in a row and lose one, and the people will turn their back on you. So. The people that you're rewarding with your excellent research and picks, and it's not just you; it's a whole team. How many guys do you have that are pouring over and
There's a
devoting all
solid
these,
seven of us. Yeah, there's
fun?
7 of us, widespread across the U.S. that we're on the phones, putting our heads together each and every day, making sure we're getting the public good quality picks.
All right, very good. And you dive into all kinds of stuff. I saw a friend of mine posted a ticket. He hit 4 out of 5 on NHL prop bets, which
Mm.
involved all kinds of minutia. Shots by individual players at
Mhm.
+2.5, and all kinds of crazy stuff that he was betting. But we've talked about this many times. If you're searching for that 10 component parlay and you're putting $5 on it to win 2,000, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be eating the five, which a lot of guys will justify and say, "Well, it was only $5. I had some interest in the game," but this is the reason that FanDuel is buying television networks now, and it's only a matter of time, as we say, before they end up owning CBS, ABC, and NBC, just about everything else. All right, Troy Wins is the place people can go. Give us the details on that. So I know you still are doing that $7 thing. That's what the fan that posted on social media was talking about. Can you believe this? This guy's giving me winner after winner for $7. So how do people sign up for that program?
Yeah, get to the Instagram. It's Troy West. The link is posted there. The website is troywins.com. That was also posted there. So yeah, get to either one of those guys and we'll love to help you out. It's troywins.com. I truly believe we're the best in the business.
All right. Any golfing expeditions or anything on tap here? I see you're a
Not yet. We've got until January. Unfortunately, I got a month of this cold weather, but then we'll be back in the beautiful Palm Springs in January to get that going again. The American Express, Defo, the American Express tournament at PGA West will be out there for that.
All right, sounds good. We have to get you down to Florida here because
Yes, that's on the bucket list. That is on the bucket list.
yeah, no doubt
Absolutely.
the best weather anywhere in the country today, and just beautiful out there. And it's not like there's any shortage of golf courses here in South Florida. So we'd welcome you. I'll now ride around in a cart with a couple of beverages. I don't golf anymore because I got very frustrated with the game. It's a form game, and those of us that grew up in the streets of New York, we weren't particularly adept at that whole business about keeping the left arm straight and and getting the proper form. Both tennis and golf form games that just kind of all of that eluded me. Even though I tried to manufacture a game, but had to finally throw my gloves in a canal one day, and they landed actually on top. I was at the place called Broken Sound, which is in Boca, and I tossed my clubs in the canal, and they landed on top of a Madoff a financial fraud victim. We discovered a
Unbelievable.
body in there. That's what's floating around here in South Florida. All right, kid. Have a good one. We'll talk to you tomorrow on License to Steal,
We'll
which
be there.
airs on the Bleacher Brothers Network and features all of our handicappers. So you guys that are fans of Bury Your Bookie can catch everybody all at once on that program. That's Bleacher Brothers Network, and all you have to do is Google that, and you'll find us tomorrow live at 4 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern Time. Thanks, Troy. Always a pleasure. Glad you're okay. There was
I'm
a little
back, guys. I
possibility out on
appreciate it.
you last Wednesday when you didn't show up.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you had a little technical problem, and then next thing I know, all of the people at NoFilter.net were scrambling, trying to establish your whereabouts, and we thought maybe you had gone the way of that girl that came from Hawaii that landed in L.A. and
Yeah.
somehow ended up in Mexico. We were able to call off the search though today
Yes.
because you look great, and thanks so much for sharing your insights with us here on Bury Your Bookie. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for being
All
with us.
right. Thank you, Defo. Appreciate it.
All right, Troy West, ladies and gentlemen, doing a very good job. He likes Green Bay over a decimated Lions team. They keep losing people, and 2 weeks ago they were involved in they covered the spread, but their game against Indianapolis could have gone the other way for the bettors. And then, of course, they lose to the spread on Thanksgiving Day, but managed to prevail in a ball game. Maybe they're due to get tagged with one, the Green Bay Packers. He likes +3. I've seen that game also at 3.5. So people sending it in on Green Bay. UNLV likes over Boise State.